Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ava, and I did my project at Liberis. Liberis provides finances for small businesses. After receiving their initial funding, each of the customers, they would pay Liberis a percentage of their daily transactions. Liberis has a large number of happy and returning customers, which means that they have a high renewal rate. But for this talk, I will focus on new customers and initials. This is a schematic view of the current risk assessment pipeline at Liberis. A customer applies for funding. The case is first reviewed by automated rule-based system. This system is able to decide on black and white cases and approve the funding application or reject it. For the remaining ambiguous cases or high-value cases, the funding case is reviewed by an underwriter. So Liberis is growing steadily, and that means that the cases which needs to be reviewed by underwriters are also increasing steadily. On the other hand, Liberis is growing into new markets, and that means that this rule-based system needs to be tailored for each of the markets specifically. Over time, tailoring and maintaining this rule-based system is becoming a challenge for Liberis. So overall, out of the approved cases, 13% of them would default and not pay back Liberis fully. So the objective for this project was to be able to use machine learning and develop a predictive model. And the first goal for this model is to be able to improve risk assessment by identifying low risk and high risk funding application. Secondly, to use the insight from this model and improve marketing based on the transaction data. So to this end, I produce a predictive model which is able to distinguish between the default and non-default cases. I compared the performance of this machine learning model to a random model. The random model is basically a coin toss, and it flips a default 13% of the cases. So my model compared to this random model is able to predict 4 times more default cases correctly. So how does the model work? To start with, I started to extract some information out of the transaction data. And I featured engineered some sort of measures to be able to distinguish between healthy and steady businesses compared to unhealthy and unstable businesses. These are 2 examples of 2 businesses. And you can see their transaction data going back from the point of application 24 months. The case shown on top shows a business which has a relatively steady income every month. The case on the bottom is a seasonal business. They earn more some of the months and they earn less some of the other months. Both of these cases are fundable, so they are healthy businesses. On the other hand, we have some cases like this that the transaction data seems a bit having some sort of missing transaction data. It means that for some of the months, they're able to sell their services and products, and then there isn't any transaction data available for them. They come active again, and they become inactive. So to be able to account for this, I basically counted the number of months that the transaction data was missing for each business. So how does this relate to the default rate? As you can see here, as the number of missing months of transaction is increasing, so is the default rate. And this is actually the most powerful predictive feature in my model. Quite interestingly, this feature performs better than the credit score, which is the industry standard for risk assessment. So what is the impact of predictive model for Liberis? I tested this model on a small cohort of 580 cases that the model has never seen before. And the model was able to reduce the default rate from 13% to 7%. And what is the impact of the project for Liberis? So first, the predictive model performs better than the random, and it is able to reduce the default rate. On the other hand, the actionable insight for Liberis is that if they try to market their services to the businesses which are more stable, and they manage to sell at least one product per month, their default rate would go even lower. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention.